going on, everybody?
Hello.
Hello, Pulpit. Who? Pulpit. You know, never seen Pirates of the Caribbean before?
It's been a while.
Is Poppet a person, or is that like a general term?
General term for like
a male or female?
I don't know.
Or is that profiling?
In the movie, it was female. So
I tend to just like black out during movies, and then I don't remember them very well.
You black out during movies?
I just don't remember them.
He doesn't watch
movies
sober.
I can't recite them, but if I see the movie again, I know everything that's happening.
Yeah. You almost have to watch it
comes
twice.
back to me immediately.
Yeah.
Unlike song lyrics, which never get to me ever.
I could...
Ever.
Yeah, I guess I can kind of see that. It depends.
It never.
I mean,
zero memory.
I mean, if I hear a song the first time, there's no way I'm remembering it. But like the second and third time, probably.
Well, you can't remember it if the first time you heard it.
Well, I could literally hear it.
It would have to be at least the second time you've heard it.
I'm just talking for like the chorus wise, right? Like so, like that usually repeats.
Well, yeah,
generally
your first time hearing it, so yeah.
Yeah, that's hard to remember, but like.
Well, I just got back from SoWo Fall Tour.
Oh yeah, you broke everything.
How was it?
It was good. Lots of mountain driving. We did Blue Ridge Parkway a bunch of times, which was
but that
pretty
doesn't have
cool.
anything to do with SoWo.
Okay, well I'm getting there. Smart ass.
Let
me finish. So we did SoWo Fall Tour. It was a decent show. Shout out to Matt Bounds for having us.
Decent.
Yeah, it was
decent job.
Yeah, I really did enjoy the show. Tail of Dragon was cool. Everything was peachy keen until the way home when we broke everything. I'm just glad that it broke on the way home and not on the Dragon. We had some tire issues, and of course the Mark 7.
I know all about that.
Yeah, and the Mark 7 didn't even make it to the show because 40 minutes before we got to our Airbnb that we were staying at, the turbo decided to shit the bed. So the Mark 7 looked like a diesel for the last 40 minutes of our drive because just spewing oil smoke out the back.
Nice.
So apparently that's getting a large turbo, bigger than IS-38, is what I had heard.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm going to push for the 3076.
Yeah, now we're talking.
Because I know Brian wants to test that Stage 4 clutch that we have coming out.
Yeah, let's test the rods.
I want to test the Stage 5 clutch.
I want to test the factory rods.
I think we're gonna blow the motor.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah, I think we're gonna put it on a dyno and it's just gonna explode.
It'll be fine.
I hope so.
I mean,
because then we can build that too.
Ooh, yeah.
Run till failure. Turn it up.
Yeah, 36 pounds of boost will be fine, right?
It shouldn't need that much.
It depends on the turbo.
It's too much.
On a 3076, you can.
Yeah. 3076 is a weird size, but like it seems like it fit a lot of things if you're trying to just drive it.
Yeah.
But yeah, show was good. Tail Dragon was sick. That's my first time there. Thoroughly enjoyed that. I will be going back at some point. Just don't know when. I would like to take the Corrado there, but on the wall of woe, I happened to catch a picture of a Corrado that was on fire.
I saw you posted that on Instagram.
And I was like,
it kind of looked like it had the engine on the right side of the car.
It was a VR from what I could see in the front.
The back end was on fire, which is
David,
unusual.
We brought 5 complete piles of cars down there, and nothing caught on fire. I think you'd be okay.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. We had all sorts of other strange failures, but it wasn't that.
It probably just had Dave wondering with all his fuel pump problems and the fire being in the back of the Corrado. He was like, "Oh my god!"
You didn't see any pictures of any Audi 200s on fire, did you?
No, I did not.
Yeah. If anything was gonna catch, it was probably that.
Yeah, but well, it was a good trip. I look forward to going back at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I haven't really done anything on my own projects. Moto 4's apart.
Yep. I just remembered the rear end because it's been at my desk the whole time you were gone when I was supposed to weld it.
Yeah, when we talked about it, we're like, "Hey, you could give it to Mike before you leave, and you can weld it while you're gone." And here we are.
It's all right.
I've been distracted.
So that's apart, and the Corrado's fine. So that's it. That's all I have.
Wow.
I'm pretty anticlimactic today. Still looking for Trans Ams, but that's besides the point.
Still? Wow.
Yeah.
Surprised you've been looking this long.
That and C10s and other things that I don't need. Basically anything that I can find on Facebook Marketplace, it's a piece of shit that I definitely don't need.
I look at those all the time.
I know. It's hard not to. Well, lately I've been trying to stay logged out of Facebook just because there's a lot of stuff on there that I'm really not interested in reading all the time. But it's kind of hard. Like
I use it almost exclusively for marketplace.
That's where I'm at too, and I almost wish that Facebook would just make a marketplace
like
app.
they separated Messenger or whatever to separate the marketplace.
Like, they can do it with Messenger. They should just do it with Marketplace.
I like that
because look, I don't want to read X person's life story on Facebook about their nonsense. I don't care.
I've unfollowed basically everyone on
or who they
Facebook.
think the best president is.
Yeah, I don't want to listen to any of that. I really don't care.
No.
So I want to look at car stuff and other things.
I like to follow some groups.
Yeah, like groups are okay, and like event stuff is like cool. But like, I don't care about Joe Schmo being like, my wife left me and I'm sad. Like,
you don't have to look at that. You have the choice. You have the power here, Dave.
You're right.
You have the power.
Yeah.
You just have to go through it all and like click it every single time.
It's almost easier for me to just be logged out and not deal with it at all then.
Looks like you have to bail on a marketplace then. It's very simple.
Necessary evil.
Yeah.
We'll see. But, yeah. Kevin, what you got?
Well,
I love this part. This is my favorite part.
Yeah.
I feel like Kevin has like the most interesting, dramatic things going on all the time.
I guess. I don't know. B7's in full part-out mode and pretty much have most of the car committed and actually might have the rest of the stuff that I don't really want to like pick apart and sell sold as an entire car, possibly. So wipe my hands of it, make a few bucks, and call it a day. So
made a handful of a few bucks, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean it's not like it's not work to take all this stuff apart.
Parting out stuff.
I still got to take the trans out, so you know it's getting there. Get it out of the way soon. There's not too much left really.
Yeah,
that's valuable. So found some guy that crashed his car that wants to kind of. He needs more stuff than he thought he did. He thought he just needed the front clip.
It's not Nikolai, is it?
No.
Do you guys remember Nikolai?
No.
Okay. Oh.
We don't have to.
Yeah, we don't have to go into that. That's fine.
Okay. So there's that. Last weekend I went to Colorado, which also happened to be the same weekend as Pikes Peak. So
coincidentally,
it was actually a full coincidence. I did not mean to.
I'm not buying
it. I randomly picked that weekend and then noticed that they rescheduled Pikes Peak to that same date,
which is kind of cool actually.
But they had no spectators. You couldn't buy a ticket and you weren't supposed to watch. But we were staying at the base of the mountain.
Coincidentally went hiking during Pikes Peak.
Right.
It was a 10-mile hike.
Oof.
Up 1,500 feet.
That's quite a bit.
Vertically.
Well, I mean, in the grand scheme of it, 1,500 isn't all that much.
Well, you know, it doesn't seem like it.
No, I'm not saying it's not a lot to climb. I'm just saying,
especially
over the course of
the
10
percentage
miles.
Of the percentage of
it wasn't over the course of 10 miles.
It was immediate. The first mile was almost straight up. Like it was pretty bad, and also not being used to elevation, breathing is hard.
Yeah, we didn't do much physical activity last time we were out there.
Hiked like every day. We would go up a little bit and then go back down, and then go up a little bit more the next day, and then
training.
Yeah, and then Sunday we really went for it. We probably only got like maybe 2/3 of the way up the hill until Sunday, and then we went up the hill and across over to a trail. So we were staying like right in the base of the mountain. Basically, the backyard was Pikes Peak, and you walk up the hill, go across a ridge, and about 4 miles in, you'd be at the reservoir.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So from there, you can take a 2.5-mile trail to basically right where the start line is. So we snuck up there and watched a few cars. There's a random tent in the woods, so somebody else was doing what we were doing.
Nice.
But only one person. And then on the way back, we just walked down pit lane, whatever, and then hiked down some sketchy single-track mountain ravine thing into a little town. So that was fun. Successful.
Did you go back and visit those lovely ladies at that winery?
No, we did not.
Oh, I liked them.
The winery on the actual highway of Pikes Peak is not that great.
No, but
it's pretty poorly rated on Yelp. Yeah, it was interesting. I'll give you that. But other than that, it was not great. We're supposed to go to the Tail of the Dragon next weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
There's something in my eye currently.
Yeah, we've all been going through various trials and tribulations trying to get things prepared to go to the Tail of the Dragon.
So, again, Kevin, I think, has the most interesting.
Yes, yeah,
for sure.
This week, randomly my car decided to, after I put the injectors in it, the $700 injectors, and
injectors were just preemptive, right? That's a
well,
no symptoms of any issues, right?
It was stumbly, right?
Oh,
yeah,
well,
it's kind of always been that way. And I think, what did I do? Spark plugs. I just decided to do those because it's you should do those on N54s. And I looked at the spark plugs when I pulled them all out, and cylinder 1 through 3 had the old injectors, and those spark plugs looked very different than the other bank that has the Index 12s. And it's always kind of been on my mind that I should do that, so I did it anyway. Got that out of the way. It's like, oh, it's running great now. And then Vanos code, limp mode.
So what do you think? Like, so you had the updated injectors on Bank 2. So you think somebody was just servicing it at a dealership, they had a Bank 2 misfire, and they're like, yeah, we'll upgrade just those?
This car was like completely dealer serviced its entire life, so they would only replace injectors as they, they would do each bank.
Yeah, they do it in banks, but as there's an issue.
And then once you get past a certain revision, I think 11 or 10, you have to do the entire bank. So I had Index 7, so it had been done at one point. They just hadn't gotten the 12s yet. So now we have all Index 12s. And there's quite a bit of carbon on the tips of those, so I'm kind of glad that I did that. But then I had the Vanos codes, and it was putting it in limp mode after a long highway drive, so when the oil was hot. So I replaced the Vanos solenoid. Then I checked the other thing, which is apparently the cage in the oil filter cap. If it comes out, it sends unfiltered oil to the Vanos solenoid, and that's
and it's a pressure drop. But
yep, that too. And both of those didn't fix it. So the next option was the cam ledges, they call them, or the cam trays. Basically, the early N54s have metal seals where the Vanos solenoid sends oil pressure to the cam actuator area, and over time, the metal seals wear right into the tray, and then they make it leak.
Aluminum, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. So I'm in the process right now. I have one of the cams out of replacing the cam trays completely.
So are they just replacing the trays, or is there an updated seal as well?
There's a Teflon seal now. Okay. So they revised it in 2009. And, I mean, honestly, I've heard of people replacing these at like 30,000, 90,000 miles. So the fact that I'm at 125 and this is the first time it's happening, it's pretty decent, I guess.
Yeah.
So that engine's super clean on the inside. Everything's nice and silver, no yellow, browning, anything like that. So it's healthy, seems like. So once I get this done, should be good.
Nice.
Big job. Anyone who's taken a valve cover off an N54 knows how much of a pain it is. It's stupid amount of stuff.
All the injector lines go in.
So is it actually? I don't know much about any BMWs honestly, besides like E30s and stuff. But so for the M54s, is the valve cover like part of like the head, like it is on the TSIs? Like it's like a cam girdle, or like?
No, it's not a cam girdle. It's a cover.
Okay, but so it's actually a cover.
But the injectors are in the middle, or nearer to the spark plug. So there's injector lines that come across that are a pain in the ass. The wiring's a pain in the ass.
Oh, to actually get the cover physically off.
Yes.
Okay.
A ton of wires. There's a ton of lines everywhere.
Yeah.
There's e-Torx bolts in every location ever. There's braces. I had to take the charge pipe out, the intake, the fan, so I could rotate the engine.
Oof.
I got the cam lock tool on there. I got the timing stuff, this and that, the other
So
thing.
basically, it's a giant pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's worse things, but it's not great.
No, I mean, honestly, well, for someone like me who doesn't know anything about it, I'd be like, nope. It's going to take me a minute. But
fun, but we're getting there, and that seems like it's the problem. There's pretty deep grooves worn into the trays, so
it is. Well, in some ways, nice to see evidence of a problem.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't
diagnose an issue.
Man,
so,
I'm glad I didn't get all the way in there and then find nothing, because that would have sucked.
Yeah, then you just kind of have to keep
throwing parts at it.
Yeah. As much as I hate to do that, but
this should solve the problem, and I'm hoping to have it running by Saturday evening.
Nice.
So
what day do you guys leave?
Thursday morning.
Yeah. Yep.
Next Thursday morning.
Yeah, crack it on.
It'll be all right.
Early.
Maybe.
Crack of dawn. How crack of dawn are we talking?
Don't you want to get down there? Come on.
Yeah.
Or like butt crack.
Like, yeah. Slightly
I
above
will-
the crack.
Okay.
Here's
The
what I'll
tramp
say.
stamp of dawn.
Okay.
I don't know
Tramp
where-
stamp of dawn is
I don't
good.
know where you guys are necessarily staying down there, or like how
Bryson
close.
City.
Bryson City, Almond, North Carolina.
If you if you get a
I
chance,
couldn't remember.
Blue Ridge Parkway,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is near where we stayed,
Mm-hmm.
is actually like pretty nice mountain driving. Like not
Pretty much most of the
super
roads
aggressive.
that aren't the Dragon around there
Yeah.
are
Yeah,
better.
pretty good.
Well, I was
Like, honestly,
I,
they're better than the Dragon.
We probably drove Blue Ridge like 30 times.
Mhm.
Like it was a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and it was pretty good. So highly.
That's why you
recommend.
didn't have any tires left.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, I'm really curious. I think on the B9 at least, the tires on the rear on that tire and wheel setup on that car is just not ideal.
It seems like
It's
it was run
very-
flat for a
it's
while.
Very stretchy.
That looked very ran
It's
flat.
not very stretchy. It's just a 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
don't
that car doesn't have like TFP-mass sensors. It has the rotation calculations through the ABS.
Yeah.
So like with the 20 and a low pro, if it's flat, it's gonna take a while before it can tell you.
Yeah.
So
gotta be
I
pretty
bet it was
flat.
low, and then just judging by the way the sidewall tore, that looks like it was run flat for a while.
Yeah.
So it probably went low. It couldn't tell because it's on low pros. and
Yeah. Well, I couldn't tell either because the dashboard wasn't telling me anything. So
Yeah,
when
exactly.
it happened, I
I
was like,
can't feel anything.
"No, you really." I couldn't feel. I
Did
couldn't
anyone
feel
check
it.
the tire pressure at all before
You
we
know,
left?
back in
Like,
my
we checked-
day,
we
they didn't have sensors to tell you when your tires were
Yeah.
flat.
We checked the tires.
They also
still,
didn't have low pros on 20s, but
multiple times when we were down there. I didn't get any errors on the B9 really.
and before going to limp mode,
No,
No?
Surprisingly,
No, yeah, you got to really drive it to get
Yeah.
into lit mode.
yeah, who was
Uh,
driving it?
Rigsby was driving
okay.
it.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah. All right. Tough crowd.
Shots fired.
He was actually driving that car pretty aggressively from I guess from my viewpoint.
I don't believe you.
That's fine.
Saying I like cut it to go to lit mode immediately.
So, well,
It was also low on fuel when I got it, and I think that's why it went into lit mode first. Like it was like at a quarter tank or so,
Yeah.
and it fuel sloshed on top of being hot, and I got
Yeah.
mad.
but other than that, the cars, like I said, were fine. So, I don't know how we got to where we are now, but
Tail of the Dragon.
yes.
yeah.
That's where we're headed
That,
Yes.
That's
with
the-
our various ship boxes.
Mostly just Honda Helix.
the driving factor behind all of our.
I don't know. That's not my main concern going down there.
what's
What?
your main concern?
Oh, we'll wait till you get to me, but
Okay.
the truck bit.
Are you?
Oh.
done? Are you
No,
okay.
I mean, we're bringing down various vehicles, and pretty much only Shane and I are bringing like cars that are fast.
Yeah,
Quote
you're,
unquote.
you're the one bringing cars for the Dragon, but
I don't. What else am I gonna?
I know. I
That's,
get it.
that's
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair. What else am I gonna
Oh,
take?
we might be picking up
Oh.
Jack's wagon.
Are you gonna
possibly
check it out?
Sunday? Yeah,
Nice.
little 525 E39 wagon.
Manual swap.
Oh, Jack from War Jack.
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah. Manuel.
So in place of what the B7 was supposed to be.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
That'll be good, maybe.
Wagon Mafia.
Yeah.
Gang.
Yeah.
So then I really got to ditch the B7. So okay, next.
Ooh, that was fast. I didn't have time to think. So yeah, preparations. Well, I haven't done a whole lot since last week, but then again, I kind of skipped myself last week because I was moderating instead of Dave, and then kind of just glanced
Sorry,
over
guys.
that. But I can't remember what I said last time, so I'll go over that. Swapped out the steering box in the truck, so that's nice. Way better. You can't, just like throw it into a turn, which was kind of fun, but also not very confidence inspiring.
No, not good. But
So-
entertaining.
It was ridiculous. You
Yeah.
could take a 90-degree turn like from a stop, and you could just like throw the wheel, and it would turn all the way to the lock.
Oh
Yeah,
Oh,
you could give it a toss, just using like a third of the wheel, and it would go another 2 turns. It was amazing. It was very
so
fun.
loose. So as you can imagine, that it just didn't feel very good. But anyway, so it feels really nice now, kind of given alignment, and that's done. So in order to reward myself for all the maintenance that I've done, I bought a tuner last night.
Heck yeah.
So you'll be pulling a Mike Day and replacing your transmission very shortly.
Dude,
No, he's got
manual.
the Manuel.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
he'll
yeah.
be
Not
he'll
a
just be
problem.
changing a clutch, that's all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, whatever.
But I'm okay with that.
What's
sort
this tuner do?
Yeah, what tuner
What's
did
the
you buy?
capability?
From who?
of. So it'll do plus 140.
Okay.
So I'm pretty amped on that because like right
Like
now it
torques
feels
or horsepower?
horsepower. I don't know why they
Horse
don't rate it
prairies.
in torque with like the plus
Yeah.
whatever. I don't really care about horsepower
With the-
honestly, but
With the 5.9s and stuff, you just double it, and the horsepower, just the RPM range works out,
Yeah.
so you are.
yeah, which is funny and it's kind of nice. So like the thing about the 7.3s is there's like a few pretty significant changes throughout that generation. Where 99, which was the first year, there's like a half year split. Like the first half of the year they had a smaller turbo, but everything else about it was pretty good. So they had forged rods and they switched to like powdered metal rods in like 2001.
Okay.
So 99 and a half, which mine was built in 06 or 6 May or whatever of 99, has the larger turbos from the later split, and then but it still has the forged rods and everything. So
Wow,
they say
race truck.
yeah, so they say it only to run that plus 140 on that specific split.
I wonder how many people have ran it on not that.
I mean, I
Just
would have.
skip
I
everyone.
definitely would have, anyways. You know, it's like I gotta know. Yeah,
Yep.
probably not all the time, but
It's
now
that
I'm just gonna
noise.
run it all the time.
Yep.
Race truck.
Boy.
So that's cool. So I mean, honestly, I think pretty much everything's done on it except for some minor oil leak stuff. Like it doesn't leave drips or anything anywhere, but some stuff is just kind of
Damp.
spritzing oil.
a little damp.
Yeah.
So that's that. I mentioned that I ordered the ATC rebuild kit last time, but I have that. My plan is to do that tomorrow in conjunction with, after we're done recording the podcast, sandblasting the inside of that fuel tank which started leaking,
Yeah.
and putting sealer in that. And yeah, because the Helix is good to go. So I just want to make sure all the other tiny things are nice. So ATC XR80 is good. After the last week's podcast, finished rebuilding those forks. Dropped a fork on my foot twice while wearing
Ouch.
flip-flops. That
What?
sucked.
Well, it sounds like it's self-inflicted there.
It was
Mr.
100% my fault.
Mr. Wear
I was like
flip-flops.
prying the seal out of the tube, and
I feel like
just-
we're all probably
yeah.
guilty of wearing flip-flops in the garage when we shouldn't be.
I never wear flip flops.
Well,
I also don't, but I have a buddy that exclusively wore flip-flops in the garage.
Yeah.
sounds like
Welding, didn't care. Just like working
Yeah.
on cars anytime in the garage, flip-flops.
yeah.
I don't do it on purpose, but
don't
occasionally I
either.
find myself out there because I'll put them on just like to take the dog out and everything, and then I'm like, you
You
know
get
what, I'm gonna do
sidetracked.
just go down there for a few things, and then I'm down there for like 4 hours.
Right.
with
You're like, I'm gonna
flip-flops
pull
or
this
whatever.
entire thing apart. And
Yeah,
then-
yeah.
No, I do the same thing.
So the XR80 should be good now, and Moto 4 has always been good. So really, just getting ATC ready to rip, and I'll be in good shape for Thursday.
There you go.
Nice.
I mean, Kevin, if you want to have like a little shakedown Brapplebee's this weekend, I wouldn't be opposed. Weather's supposed to be pretty nice.
Sunday, Monday, maybe?
Sunday, Monday, I'm in.
Monday, probably?
I'll bring the
No, Sunday.
I'll bring the
Sunday?
grillables.
Sunday. Sunday
Mhm.
sounds good.
Yeah.
Hopefully my car's done.
Oh, and yeah, and I guess in not dragon prep stuff, I am going to get another transmission for stuff for the Mazda Speed, so I can get that gone. Just gonna get a whole gear stack out of a Speed 3, so I can put that in and solve some of those issues. But
So you're only getting rid of one of them?
yeah.
Huh.
Well, the other one was
How'd you scumbag yourself into that one?
I don't
Don't
know.
worry
This,
about it.
this Mazda that was going to be like back together in 2 weeks has been apart for 2 months.
I lost motivation. I'm not gonna lie. It was
Yeah.
hard to work on, especially because I do want the money from selling it, but it's ultimately just selling it. So I'm like,
I don't know. It's starting to look like a scrapyard at your apartment.
it is pretty. It is.
Oh, no.
It is pretty bad. I'll admit that. Yeah.
Scrapyard.
Yeah.
Will's Mazda scrapyard.
Mm-hmm. Come and get your parts. Yeah. Okay. That's all I've got.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Ready to go.
Okay. So the dopey Dodge truck saga with the worst transmission on earth. Converter was slipping. Bought the race car trans out of a school bus. It's enormous. It's going to require a bunch more money before I can get there. So, what noise is... Your phone's fucking up the jam here.
It's Kevin.
Yeah.
It's not me.
It's always Kevin.
He put it right by his mic.
Yeah, so I pulled the torque converter because I know we're going down the tail of the Dragon. We're only bringing two-wheeled vehiculars between me and Will, so it makes sense to tow the trailer. but my truck's been a jerk with the trailer because of the trans stuff. So $250. I found this jabroni on Facebook Marketplace. He's like, yeah, I'd rebuild them or whatever. He was trying to sell new ones on there, but it, like, fine print at the bottom was like, hey, we can also rebuild yours for, you know, $250 or whatever. I'm like,
Way
"Oh."
less money.
I'm like, done.
Well, why not then?
So I pulled the trans Saturday, which wasn't spectacular in my driveway.
Is it ever?
There's better, but it wasn't the worst. And then he rebuilt it and had it back to me like the day I dropped it off like Monday night, and then Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock, he's like, yep, done, ready to go, new clutches, new sprag, a bunch of other stuff. And I'm like, cool, I have no idea how these work. So I've done a little research. It's kind of neat, but put the torque converter and trans back in last night. Drove it a little bit today. Seems better. It's a little low on fluid. I had like one slippy moment that now that I know the fluid was lower than I thought. Like, it was fine yesterday after I put the trans in and checked everything, but driving it to work and back, there must have been an air pocket or some things have settled.
It was
So
a fresh converter, yeah.
yeah, exactly. I filled the converter first, but like
You can only fill it halfway, right?
exactly, the thing just pours fluid everywhere.
Right.
So I don't know. But yeah, cross my fingers.
How low was it?
When I checked it before leaving work today, it was like
Cold.
just a dot on the bottom of the dipstick.
And then when you checked it at work today?
When we were leaving work, that's when I checked it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, that's the only time I ever had issues was when I was 1 quart low and the thing would just neutral rev if I like came to a stop and got in the throttle immediately. So
Yeah, because I knew it was low from there out, like I didn't do anything crazy, but
yeah, that'll make a big difference.
yeah. So hopefully that works. It does seem to hold better in the other RPM ranges. Like it always used to. Like the whole time I've had the truck, I could get it to slip at like 50 miles an hour, like 1500 RPM. I noticed it, like you could roll into it and it felt sort of slippy, and I thought it was just like not fully engaged yet, but it was actually just a converter the whole time. So now it doesn't do that, and it doesn't slip at like 80, but like when I was almost at work today, I got it to slip at like 60-ish. I'm like, oh no. But now that I think it was low, we'll see.
Confidence inspiring.
Yeah, yeah. There's hope.
There's hope.
There's hope.
That is a chunky transmission.
Dude, it is, yeah,
It
aggressive.
is so short and so thick.
So very large around.
It's a chode.
Yeah.
That's the word you're looking for.
It's extraordinarily heavy as
I
well.
prefer chunky.
Chunky. So yeah, that is still the game plan, because the
Big
gear
boy.
splits still suck in the stock trans. Like the 4-speed's still awful, especially because I don't know what gears yours has, Kevin. But mine has 355s, so like, I don't know. With the big trailer, it's like the gear split between if you hit the overdrive lockout to go up a hill, you're like damn near on the limiter. It's like 2,800 RPM, and then you turn it back off and it goes like 1,800. Like, so it's
Yeah,
like
I mean,
no
third's-
power or no power.
It's not great, but also I have the big wheels on it, so overdrive I'm cruising pretty good.
Yeah.
I like where it sits in overdrive, and I've
Yeah,
never
I
had to
just
come
can't
out of
use it.
overdrive because I don't have to
Yeah.
downshift because open trailer.
Right. Yeah.
So I plan on not touching it for now.
I don't blame you, but I've forced my hand into this by buying an enormous trailer. So
My truck also has less than half the miles yours does.
yeah,
So we'll let it ride for a while. See
Yeah.
what happens.
yeah.
Huh.
But yeah, otherwise I have to fix the Helix because it's got some sort of rattly clutch shenanigans going on, and that's like the only thing I bring to the Dragon. Like, I should do the fork seal on the Yamaha. I might bring that, but I don't want to. And then, like, it's not the best bike for that. The shaft drive acts a little goofy, so
Yeah.
like on and off throttle
Tries
and
to
on and off
stand you up and
brakes.
stuff.
Yeah, it just feels weird.
Yeah.
Not super confidence inspiring. I really would like to get the 2-stroke going, but that's extremely unlikely. So
I mean,
The
The
what do you need to
2-stroke
do?
drag bike that you bought or traded your Moto.
I had a Honda SL
Oh,
350. I traded at
I
Vintage
thought
That
Moto
was like the
Weekend.
Moto Guzzi or not the
Moto
Moto
Morini.
Guzzi. Moto Morini. That's what it was.
No, I sold that straight up.
I thought
Okay.
that's what
Same
that
guy,
was for.
but
Oh.
Oh, he bought and traded.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like what? I don't think we've talked about this bike before. It's a 2-stroke,
Oh, yeah.
2-cylinder.
It's a Suzuki T-350 that used to be like an 8th mile drag bike back in the day, in the early 80s.
Right, you got
There's
it
a
with,
lot
like,
of weird
full,
hack
like,
stuff.
Solid rear.
Dry rotted,
Yeah.
everything, just
It's
like
inside.
missing a lot.
It's in
of
his living
stuff.
room.
Oh,
Yeah, it's under the
that's
TV
okay.
right now.
That makes more sense.
But yeah, it came with like boxes of cylinders and like various porting jobs for different shenanigans, and then had some archaic drag tires on it. I've got some normal race tires. I got like a full front fairing. I bought a bunch of stuff to try to make it into like a sort of vintage road race bike, and I just haven't had time to touch it. So if I can get it running with the new tires, I'm going to ignore the fairing and just see if I can cruise it around a little bit. But maybe dial some stuff in. Should be fun.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Huh.
But unlikely.
Maybe.
All right.
So that's it.
So,
What are we talking about today, moderator?
yeah.
Dave.
I don't know. What are we talking about?
Well, you're no help.
Dave,
Well, I really don't know. We didn't discuss.
you're
prior
fired.
to- Whatever.
This was
Get in
Kevin.
your pocket.
It's Kevin. It's Kevin.
Damn it, Kevin.
Well, I did have a topic selected, but I just
Uh-oh.
wasn't sure on thoughts on all of it.
Wow.
Send
So
it.
we're just
Well,
gonna
too
we're
late.
just gonna go for it. Okay.
Okay, what was the
so
topic?
the topics were so this is probably, I don't know, 8 or 9 episodes ago. We talked about dyno testing and
Yeah.
operation and all that.
Right.
So we sort of touched on when not to use dyno for like data validation and testing of products, and what alternatives we have to dyno testing. So what I thought might be interesting is if we, if we want to like recap on the dyno stuff, that's fine too, but also talk about using flow bench, strain gauges, and then like auxiliary sensors for like road testing. I think an interesting one, Mike, is what you did recently for the MAF testing. That was that was a fun little thing.
No, yeah, it was fun. We haven't really gotten anywhere with it yet, but so we're essentially doing a larger intake on a BMW so you're changing the MAF size, and in order to rescale that, you need some data or programming, and we're trying to get a baseline of what you would need to rescale the mapping in the ECU. So
I think it's obvious why you can't really just use a dyno for that, because
right, it doesn't work that way. I mean,
Right.
you could spend a lot of time and get it dialed in on the dyno if you had someone there that's live tuning that. Those ECUs, I don't believe you can live tune anyway.
right.
But
But you need a custom MAF scaling then, and you need to have that dialed in before you make a comparison to say whether or not this is better or not.
right. So basically, the whole reason you need to rescale it, let's get into that first, is we're using the same mass airflow sensor, which is normally part of the housing. So this is for an E39 540. So it's 3 and, I don't know, a little under 3.5 inch ID tube with a MAF sensor in it. So it knows that's the diameter. So then it knows the flow rate through it and can then calculate how much air is going
Ooh, Mike,
into
tell
the
us
engine.
how MAF sensors work.
It's, well,
Ready to go.
there's a couple different types. I believe that one is hot
filament?
wire. Yeah, so,
whatever.
it's a wire that is heated, and then it knows the resistance drop as the air going across it cools it. So it's calculated to go from that. But, yeah, I don't know a bunch about the other styles of MAF either.
Me neither. But
Well,
so basically,
this is
the way the ECU calculates the air mass, so mass like the volume of air, well, not just volume, density.
it's a voltage
Air
map,
mass.
and it's calculating that
Mhm.
across, a known diameter. So you're calculating for
Right.
gallons per second or whichever.
grams per second.
Grams per second. Well, it
Yeah.
depends on the software too. It just
Uh,
changes
okay.
kilograms per whatever, and I don't know. Every ECU I've seemed to check seems to be different.
So the obvious importance in swapping out the MAF housing is, for all it cares, like it's actually flowing less at that point.
Well, that's exactly. So we're using the same sensor because that already works with the ECU, and like you're not trying to deal with different resistance changes, but we're putting it into a larger housing, and then you have to recalibrate that portion of the map. So rescaling those parameters, because it would read lower.
Because less volume of air is traveling
Right.
past the hot filament, which
Right.
is cooling it less.
Because at idle, it's using the exact same amount of air, but it's going through a larger tube, so the air is moving slower.
Mhm.
So yes, it thinks less air is going in. So I basically 3D printed a little fixture to go onto the flow bench
Like a
with
big velocity stack.
yeah,
basically,
kind of.
yeah.
It's just a big funnel, and then a velocity stack on top to try to get the turbulence out of it. And I used the stock MAF at the bottom, and then I used the larger diameter mass airflow sensor housing that we designed, and this another sensor at the top. And then we logged it with your Arduino on the flow bench at a bunch of different ramp rates through the flow bench. We figured out it was easier to just like let it ramp up and ramp down.
Yeah, just turn it off, turn it back on, basically.
Yeah, because you can get a curve out of it, and they're both happening at the exact same time, so you can kind of extrapolate from that.
Because, I mean, the other option was, because we talked about trying to run it on the dyno and measure things, but you can't control enough that
Right.
way.
You could do it, like we said, just with the software if you're just watching air-fuel ratios and just try to recalculate the map that way.
Yeah,
But
I'm not
that-
saying you couldn't make a tune from it.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And also, the other thing we thought about is using kind of designated data points on the flow bench, but that's kind of a mess too. So you're better off trying to just get all of your data points at once and just do it during that ramp rate. But yeah, that's one of the things we try to do to figure this stuff out. You got to get creative sometimes, and the ability to 3D print some of the stuff really lets you kind of open the door into doing some random shenanigans to try to get
Figure out
decent
what
data.
shapes work and what shapes don't.
Exactly.
Right,
yeah.
Shane?
Yeah, Shane.
Sometimes you think things will work and they
Hey,
do
man.
not.
Yeah, smooth transitions all the time. It's like not always the right answer.
Right.
Sometimes maintaining a larger diameter for longer is better. So, but you don't know.
Right.
You know.
We don't have great flow simulation stuff, and what we can do fairly average flow simulation, and it's still it depends on how you set it up more so than I don't know.
Definitely the
the
most
data.
important factor is how well you set that stuff up, how well you mesh your surfaces, how well you input, your ins and outs, and obviously you have to make it as basic as you can. You have to give it fewer variables to get higher accuracy results, but then you have to make a lot of assumptions, so it is tricky.
Yeah, so real life testing on the flow bench seems to be the best.
Yeah. And then of course, the flow bench is very accurately calculated for air mass and things like that.
I feel like we haven't really covered what a flow bench exactly is.
Yeah, Kevin, we haven't.
It's a shop vac.
Yeah.
It's a fancy shop vac.
That thing's like I don't even remember how many horsepower that thing's supposed to be. It's a hell of a shop vac.
Yeah,
it's
it's a lot.
240 3-phase, like 20 horse shop vac essentially.
I want that shop vac, honestly. Like
That would be sick. Yeah.
but
That
yeah.
thing's a ripper.
Yeah, it's aggressive.
So ours is a Superflow SF750. So
Right.
that's 750
CFM, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
CFM.
At a certain, it's not 21 inches of
No.
mercury or whatever.
I think at 750 it's closer to like 10
Yeah, that makes sense.
10 not inches.
H2O.
Is it inches?
It's inches.
Okay.
It's
Inches
either
H2O.
inches of water. Oh, it's inches of water, not mercury.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
water. Yeah. So yeah, Kevin, go ahead. Tell them how a flow bench works.
I don't know how flow vac
Yeah, you
works.
do.
Yeah, you're the
I
guy
know
who
more
ordered
about-
it, Will. Like,
I know I do.
I know
just
more
wanted
about
to give
strain
Kevin the
gauges. I
opportunity
just
to
know how to
talk.
test stuff. Like, we're just testing an intake. You gotta make the thing to test it. And you put the intake on there, and then you suck the air through it, and it either sucks more or less. Like,
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it is really a
In the case of
glorified.
it sucking more, it usually means
you're
good.
measuring essentially like the output value that you're getting is volume or mass, right?
Well, there's a
Your
lot of
cubic
a lot
feet
of
per minute.
yes.
Well, yeah, you're measuring
It's a
the amount
rate,
of
yeah.
airflow through a
Flow rate,
something.
yes.
Yeah.
It's a flow rate.
it has a lot of other data that you can extract
will
from
that
it.
do?
But
Does it do resistance data too?
it does a lot of things. So it can suck and blow. So honestly, if you
Yeah.
wanted to, measure an intake as
We've
it was
done that
pulling
for-
air
for-
through,
We've done
Yeah.
downpipes.
Yeah.
So we can we can reverse it essentially. So it is a glorified shop vac. It's a AC motor on a
Right.
VFD, so you can very carefully control, the output of it.
What's a
And
VFD?
So a
Variable
variable frequency drive.
Yeah,
Sorry,
well,
Mike.
sorry.
I
There
steal
you
your
go.
thunder there.
Thanks. I'm just trying to make sure I'm getting
So
things
excited.
clearly here.
And obviously, in order to have a variable frequency, you need to run AC. So
Right.
that's why it's a big old 240 3-phase puppy.
Right.
But yeah, it uses all that data. It can give you pressure drop or pressure increase, depending on what direction you're going. So
Right.
and everything. It is a pretty simple machine if you think about it. It's just got a bunch of.
Well, I mean, you guys called it a shop vac, basically. That's
Well,
stereotype,
that's-
it's
so,
a
yeah.
very
we're dumbing it
highly
down here, but
yeah, it's
yeah.
a highly calibrated shop vac.
Right.
The way
Yeah.
it's calibrating the air and kind of measuring stuff is complex. But
Shop vac with sensors.
yeah,
Right,
shop vac
yeah.
with a shitload of very, very, highly tuned sensors.
Right.
So
Yeah, it just has a bunch of like very carefully sized orifices in it that it was calibrated for. So they'd run it at the factory orifice. Yeah, you would laugh. Yeah.
It's all your last conversation.
You know, they
suck and blow and other
Well,
things.
yeah. So basically, they turn it on. They run this shop vac at a very specific frequency and power, and they know using other calibrated instruments exactly how much airflow it will flow
Yeah.
at that range, and then your deviation from that range is your airflow or your
Right.
restriction or whatever, however you're trying to measure it. So,
Yeah.
obviously, benefit of that is we can control things like variables that aren't very controllable, like engines, which care a lot about ambient temperatures, which that flow bench obviously takes into consideration.
And you can
And,
simulate that through the flow bench?
not
Like
like
engine-
harmonics, no.
Okay.
But
So yeah, I've tested things like intake manifolds, which isn't exactly real world.
yes,
But-
I wanted to get into. I did some testing with mine too.
Oh, that's right, you
but-
did the
yeah.
CSL intake. But it's really extremely beneficial when we don't even have real prototypes yet. So like for instance,
Right.
they're making that out of carbon fiber, right? It's a very organic shape. We can't make it out of sheet metal. We're not making it it's going to be expensive to make the first time.
Yeah.
So if you have the opportunity to 3D print something like that and proof of concept your shapes inside your intake manifold, your plenum volume, your
Right,
intake
just to get,
length,
like, a
the
rough-
shape of the inlet, the velocity stack, and make sure all that works,
Yeah.
even just for one cylinder, you're just that much farther ahead.
Well, yeah, because once you get that reading from that one cylinder, you can duplicate that essentially. to-
Sorta. You have to.
Well-
you have to try all cylinders at once. That's like when I did the CSL intake. We ended up. Luckily, I designed that before we had the flow bench.
Right.
So luckily, it worked out. But I kind of used some bell mouth theory and a bunch of googling to design that. But we got like a 30% improvement over the stock intake manifold and a 10 CFM improvement over the BMW CSL intake. And there was a couple little things that seemed like red flags. I'm like, oh, we'll try this. And then luckily when we had a prototype, it made a difference. But
Yeah.
I made a bunch of plugs, so we're only testing one runner at a time because basically, like, the flow bench isn't powerful enough to test all 6 at once.
No,
I wish it was, but
especially when
that's
I mean,
enormous.
Just
Like,
knowing what that intake looks like, I can
Yeah.
imagine like it's
It's
not,
so much
not-
air. That is
it's-
so
yeah,
much
it's not
air.
putting out enough air for
No.
it to actually be accurate. So.
no, and like it's harder to read what's going on if you were to test all 6 at once.
Right.
So I was able to test, all of them individually and just keep moving them along. I made a little adapter and I just moved the plug to the next,
Yeah.
intake port and move it along. And then it was interesting because like the cylinder 6 and 5 partially are shrouded by like the back of the box just
Yeah.
because of the shape it has to be. And you can see the CFM drop there because it is a little shrouded. Same with the factory one and, the BMW CSL. They all did the same thing just because of that proximity. But
Right.
that was kind of more interesting to me is seeing that difference.
It's also satisfying knowing that, like, okay, this is functioning the way I expect it to, and it's like, okay, I'm not crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
The proof of concept. Like, you can go over all the theory of bell mouth tuning in the world, and, like, it still doesn't necessarily correlate to an engine.
Give
so,
me when you what are you saying now? Bell what?
like a bell mouth, like
I don't know what that is.
You know what a velocity stack looks like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
that's a bell
okay,
mouth.
That's
okay.
a bell mouth
Yeah, I'm
technique.
just trying to make sure I'm
Like,
getting.
yeah,
Looks like a
there's-
bell
yeah,
Oh, thanks, Kevin.
in a mouth.
in a mouth, the mouth of a bell.
Which is funny because it's not even like any sort of the shape
No.
itself is very interesting if you start looking into like the
Yeah, I just wasn't
science
sure
of,
if
of it.
we
It's
were
not
talking
like a
about something
constant
else.
radius. It's not even a single
No.
arc. It's
Yeah,
like
It's based on an ellipse. Usually.
it's
Yeah.
not even. It's like
Yeah. That's the thing. There's the ideal bell mouth,
Mhm.
and then you can put just a slight radius on the tube, and like the radius on a tube is like a 60% improvement over just a cut end,
Yeah.
and then the rest of it gives you just very minute changes from there.
Mhm.
So like the perfect bell mouth is still,
yeah.
I'll go lean on formula stuff because this was like a major thing. Is
Okay,
like your
Kevin
bell.
doesn't want to explode our brains.
No, like
I did the math on it. I just don't. I have no
Well,
retention for that. But
it was because of our intake restrictor. It was like you better make the best intake restrictor you possibly can because you can do anything up until the point it comes down to
Oh, right. Yeah.
19 millimeters. But the things got wild. Like
Yeah.
it looked like super long, and then like I don't know. We did a lot of CFD analysis on what shapes would make the best intakes, and there's just a lot of work that went into it.
Yeah, but like just the first, like you get a huge change just from the initial part of the radius,
Right.
but it's like the curling back portion of the bell mouth that's kind of like it does like a little sometimes.
Yeah.
Like
It's just trying to
So-
get it off the dead zone of something flat.
Right.
It's sitting on
I
like
bet
the
you that's
inside
like
of
influenced a lot by like volume behind the runner as well, or
Right, that's
behind
true.
the bell mouth. Like I have to imagine it's influenced by that somehow, but nobody has like calculations for that part.
Right.
You know, because
So-
if it was coming up into like a flat plane and you just had like a little bell mouth, like it's probably not that important.
right. Yeah, it's very situational, and that
Yeah.
that makes sense why that's a pretty small improvement if there is an improvement.
Go ahead, Dave. Sorry.
No, I was just trying to understand. Like, I've always seen like velocity sex is what I'll call it because that's what I know it is. But like, I've never actually realized that it was it could potentially make a
stuff.
difference.
Yeah.
Oh, it makes a
Yeah.
huge difference
Yeah.
for sure.
I didn't.
But like the traditional velocity stack you see is never like the perfect velocity
No,
stack.
I always see
that's,
them on like turbo. People that run like open turbos with like the velocity
Yeah.
stacks and the screens. That's the only time
Which-
I've really ever seen it.
It's pretty different too, because that's functioning as like the ram air style thing.
sort of depending on where it is.
Yeah.
I'm
So-
thinking more that you see it on ITB cars a lot too.
Oh yeah,
Right,
yeah, okay,
right,
okay,
right.
yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That I mean that's what the CSL intake is.
Yeah,
in
it's
an
an
ITB
ITB
car,
car,
but
with a filter. That's
yeah,
all.
with
Yeah.
a filter ahead of it.
Well, I mean, the same. It doesn't necessarily have to be a ram air effect on a turbo.
No.
right?
I'm just
'Cause,
saying
like,
there's
if you just had an
places where you
open
might have seen it.
turbo, you know,
Yeah.
you have a sharp edge on the end, and that sucks for flow. So to get the most air, literally, it suck the most. You need to have some kind of transition.
Okay, yeah.
I think
No, that
he's
makes
thinking
sense.
like I usually think of the E30 one headlights missing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Velocity
Right,
stack
yeah,
in
I was-
place.
Right, yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
reason to not supply it fresh air, but also
No,
it's
yeah.
sucking way more than you're ramming.
Right, I no for sure.
Oh, we're so childish.
Yeah, that's true. But like, it's also like the worst place for it, right on like the front of a grill. Like, you're not using any of the sides of a velocity stack
No,
in
you're
that
just
location.
pushing air
it's
into
just
it, right?
something that looks cool where you're getting air in. So
Yeah.
Might as well stick a funnel on
It's
it.
pulling
Right.
you.
Filter.
It's
and the
pulling.
steam.
It's pulling air from
it's pulling air, but like
everywhere.
Yeah.
So it is helping, but yeah, the ram air effect, yeah, whatever.
Right.
It's kind of a toss-up at that point. You're giving it fresh air, which is always good. So.
Yeah.
What is funny, kind of unrelated. Well, I guess it is related to like CFD and simulations, but I remember before I had like any training or really any experience with SolidWorks simulation, I was trying to do this on my own, and I was curious as to how well a bumper air inlet would function in terms of a ram air. And so I
Oh.
tried simulating this in SolidWorks,
Oof.
and while I don't think I had the best simulation setup, it did seem pretty apparent that they don't work at all. Just because air is so turbulent there, it is a high pressure zone, but you need so much surface area to supply an engine with
Yeah.
enough air in a ram air situation that it doesn't really do anything.
No, ram air honestly doesn't really do anything anyway. It's you're getting fresh, clean air. That's the best part.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Right.
like you're not getting a
Consistency.
pressure increase. That doesn't really make a
Which is
difference.
funny because
No,
I mean
it
it kind of
doesn't.
comes back down to how we use a lot of this data just from a marketing perspective too.
Yeah.
You know, obviously we use it for data validation, but at the same time we kind of just pay it forward to marketing when we're getting ready to release a product.
It gives
and
us
say,
the opportunity to market something properly, or
Yeah,
at least
so-
give it some sort of, I guess, pizzazz.
But in
right,
that
to make it
instance,
accurate.
you know, it is funny because you could honestly spin it in such a way that you say, yeah, this ram air works, but it doesn't work as a ram air. It just you
No,
just have cooler air, you know,
Right.
essentially, which does result in some sort of horsepower gain.
it's
or something
doing
like that.
something.
It's doing something.
right, but it's not
but-
ramming air. It's
Right. It's fresh air,
Just
clean air,
giving
you know,
you-
whatever it may be.
And I'm 100% against like marketing like false data. Like if
Yeah.
we're gonna market it,
Yes.
I'm 100%. I will say that this didn't really provide,
No.
you know, this effect, but you know, a gain is a gain.
It
So as
usually
long as
just
you-
comes down to pressure drop at that point.
now
For
when you
like stock in,
when-
if we're
yeah.
talking about intakes, like if you're talking about like a high flow filter versus like a stock paper filter,
yeah.
and we've measured that before.
Yep,
Yeah.
Yep.
And actually on a lot of intakes.
So when you say pressure drop, you mean just
so you measure the pressure in front of the
Okay.
filter.
It's a
and
vacuum increase
filter.
is
Okay.
the other way to think about
Okay.
it. Like, you know, the restriction of the air filter. What?
No, you're right. It's just funny because I
It-
don't think about it that way.
Yeah.
The vacuum increase, pressure drop.
Yeah, because we don't coming
Well,
from
you
that
want
type of stuff here.
Kevin,
you
you
want
were-
vacuum decrease.
So
Right.
you were saying
We are you're thinking of it the wrong. I was saying it the wrong way. From like a performance intake back to
Confused
stock,
everybody.
Okay.
not from
Yes.
stock to a performance intake.
Right.
But
so back so pressure drop. You mean
it's a measure of restriction. Is
Right.
before or after the filter?
after
Both.
filter.
Both,
Well,
okay.
yeah, we'll
Well,
do
you're
both.
comparing. So you take your pressure reading before the filter,
Right.
and you take your pressure reading after the filter. If
Right.
you have a very restrictive filter, you're going to see a large difference between those numbers.
Right. Okay.
If you
Yeah.
have a high flow filter, you're going to see very minimal difference.
Right.
A similar
Makes
comparison we make is with intercoolers. You
Okay, yeah.
Before and after an intercooler,
Yeah.
obviously, the better. So, well, there's two
There's a
sides.
lot of
there's
factors there.
There's
Yeah.
two sides to this story.
Yeah.
There's cooling efficiency, there's pressure drop, and
That comes down to number of bars, density
Yeah.
of fins,
Yeah.
like
How
That's
thick the
volume
intercooler
of
is.
it.
but that is another thing we measure pressure drop on specifically, is just to see
Yeah.
how well we're getting air through an intercooler.
Yeah.
right. You don't
Have we
want
done that?
You don't want to
Oh, yeah.
make a
Oh, yeah.
more restrictive intercooler.
No.
Right.
So, but you also want to make sure that while you're not increasing the restriction, that you're also increasing your thermal efficiency and you're reducing
Right.
temperature. So as long as you're reducing the temperature of output of the intercooler and it still flows better, then you're in a good spot.
right.
So
That can be tricky though.
let me
Right.
be clear here, just to touch on the
Okay.
subject of intercoolers. Bigger doesn't always mean better.
No.
Okay.
It usually does.
You
Usually.
can have usually, yeah, good rule of thumb. But yeah, I mean, you could have a giant like tube and fin intercooler that's going to be
Yeah.
worse than a giant bar and plate.
Yeah.
Yeah. The core.
Tube and
Makes a
fin
difference.
can be better.
'Kay,
Like
well-
if, for instance, F1 cars use very dense, like micro tube and fin
Okay.
things that work really, really, really well. But
$1 million.
$1 million,
$1 million.
packaging constraints.
Yeah.
Usually air to water.
usually, yeah,
How well they can be damaged, or how susceptible to damage they are too, because like that's a much more fragile setup.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
yeah.
Huh.
I was actually looking at the
But fun
giveaway
facts,
cart
you know.
today, and I noticed on the heat exchanger for the supercharger cooler that it had this little plastic mesh, and every little thin piece of plastic ran right along the fins, or not the fins, the bars.
Okay.
Bars.
Well, if it was
Tubes.
factory
The
intercooler, it
tubes.
would have been
That's
tubes,
what
yeah.
I'm looking for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right along the tubes, so it was only exposing the fins, so it wouldn't take any damage.
Well,
to
that
the
makes
tubes.
sense. Yeah. So it's like a
That makes sense,
little
yeah.
It's fancy
shield-
little
shield
plastic
for 'em.
thing, just like stuck right on the front of it and clipped onto it and covered up all the fins
Oh,
perfectly.
are you talking about like on the front part of the radiator area, or okay?
So
yeah, I know.
that doesn't have a AC condenser in front of it.
It's behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't want the AC condenser heating up your intercooler.
No, but I'm saying a lot of cars typically do have an AC condenser out front, which then serves as sort of like a protection for.
Yeah,
your
they're all
intercooler
kind of
yeah,
they're
as
all
well,
kind
but-
of packed in the row
yeah.
there usually.
Mhm.
Well, that's
At-
good.
at
You
least
want
on modern cars.
all your heat exchangers stacked in a manner that makes sense, but like so that you're getting airflow through all of them efficiently. If
Right.
you can get them all to seal up against each other, that's great for efficiency or ducting air through it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Getting the
But
most
as
out
long
of
as
that
you
air.
don't have too much like convective heat.
Or you
going,
don't have the
yeah.
thing that's the hottest first, and then the thing you want the coldest last. Like
Right.
that's not going to work out great. But
no, that's why front mount intercooler setups are common, I guess. On
Yeah,
aftermarket.
but generally they don't actually work any better.
right, you have
It's,
to.
it's common
points.
in aftermarket and OEM.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
side
they are
mount-
better than top mounts in almost every situation.
Yes.
But the
Are
Very
you saying
rarely do you see
Subaru's
top
doing it
mounts.
wrong.
Like,
Will?
having an intercooler at all is a good thing. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in a forced induction application, sure.
from
I mean,
a
you
from
can
a
have
from a,
plenty of
like
forced induction without
in a
an intercooler.
turbo car that has a factory front mount,
Yeah.
if an OE upgraded factory location intercooler, just because of volume, is
Right.
usually going to be better than like a true front mount, because you have to fit it under the crash support. So unless you cut that out or remove that, which we can't legally do because
Right.
we're like a company,
Yeah. That makes sense.
yeah, OE location is usually going to be better,
Yeah. Interesting.
even though it gets the hot air from behind AC condensers and is like damn near touching the radiator and all that. It's still better.
Yeah, I remember when we had
Yeah.
to do that with the Mark 7.5, the last giveaway car. We had gotten an ace or radiator from someone.
Forge, was it the?
I don't know.
I forget.
but we had to make some modification to
Should have
that.
been an ECS one.
Well, we didn't have production of them yet.
Oh, that's fair.
So
Yeah.
That's on me.
what the hell, Will?
Damn it!
Should've been an
threw
ECS
myself
one.
under the bus.
But
Okay. So what's next? Strain gauges?
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how. I don't
Unless
know
you
how
want
to
to talk about simulation, which we kind of talked about a little bit.
When
I
you
don't know
say-
if you have any
I'd
more
like to talk
throw
about
in there.
strain gauges because that's
All right,
not
Kevin.
something.
You're saying strain gauges, right?
Yes.
Strain.
I'm hearing strain
Strain.
gauges. Okay, is those the ones that you use to do like crank bearings?
No.
What?
What is? No, not like the
Plastic gauge?
That's what I'm
That's
talking
what
about.
you're thinking. It has
Yeah.
the word gauge in it.
I don't know the difference.
So it's
honestly.
kind of-
I really don't know.
Yeah, I mean, plastic gauge is different.
That's fine. We don't have to go into that.
So a
So
strain
like-
gauge
I'm
is
just trying to
something like
understand.
it's a very very small thing. that
It's
you
a very small circuit board that,
Yes.
when you flex it, changes resistance.
So it's to the point where if you're taking a metal rod
Right.
and you like apply a little bit of force to it, it's changing resistance as you bend the rod. Like even a minuscule amount.
Yeah, not
It
a
can measure-
perceivable amount.
So
It's just something that you basically
You can't even visually see the
It's-
change.
So they're typically like less than
Usually.
half an inch long,
right.
less than a quarter inch wide, in most like practical automotive applications.
Do they use them to make sure like wheels are straight and whatnot? Is that the
No.
same? Okay,
No.
different.
No,
gauge.
no, no. Oh,
No.
Let me.
Well, I'm
No, Dave's asking the right questions. Here.
No, I
Yes,
really
yes.
don't know because
Oh,
like
Yes. Keep asking questions. You're
Okay.
fine.
So
Don't let Kevin discourage you.
I guess we
not.
should start with material properties of like a metal.
right.
So when you like pull on a sample of metal to break it, say
Right.
on a fancy Tinius metal polar
Metal puller,
stress strain gauge thing is you're testing
huh?
the material properties,
tensile,
right?
Tensile strength.
That's the one I was looking for. Tensile tensile
Tensile strength.
You're gonna get a curve out of these gauges. It's a stress strain curve.
And it's measuring how much stress you're putting X
It's
material
deflection
under.
of the material.
Okay.
So, and it's extremely minute. Like,
Right.
Like, it's one
If
of
you
those
had
things
one
like-
on this table and you push here, you'd see a reading from it.
Okay. Oh, so
Well,
it measures like
I can visually
very
see
bit.
that, but yeah,
Yeah,
like,
usually
right, that's
you don't
more
even have
than-
to be able
Yeah,
to
no,
see
that
it.
makes sense.
like the way the dyno functions. There's the strain gauge. This is block that looks like the letter S.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's got a
Also referred
strain
to
gauge
as a
in the
load
center.
cell.
load cell. Yeah, but same thing. It just
Same-
functions
yeah,
from a
same
strain
function.
gauge.
So many
Yep.
different names of things.
Sorry.
But it's just like a letter S. It's a big
Yeah.
block. It's all like, a half-inch steel plate.
Okay.
There's a strain gauge in the center,
Yeah.
and it pulls on that, and that's where you get your reading from. So, like, when you load the dyno,
Yeah.
the little electric eddy current thing in there
Right.
pulls on that,
Okay.
and that's what it measures how much load that's under.
So you can
So
calibrate. So basically, you can, if you have a known, you have to have something known.
Right.
So you can basically have an S-shaped piece of metal and pull on it, and if you know material properties of that, you can say, I'm pulling on it with 1,000 pounds of force. I'm getting this much resistance out of this sensor,
Right.
and that means that this piece is seeing that much force, and you can extrapolate
Okay.
from there. So basically, whatever voltage it's putting out
Correlates to a
resistance.
certain
Yeah.
pound-foot of torque or
Okay.
of load on it.
But you can get crazy with these things. So
Yeah.
you can put them everywhere. You can put them on A-arms. You can put them on wing structures. You can put them on...
My favorite's the
Everything.
shifter stuff. When people hook them up
Oh,
to
yeah.
the sequentials
These are
and
for
cells,
dog boxes.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so then it'll cut spark when you push on the shifter. It'll
Ooh.
pick up
They
the
put it
deflection of
on
the shifter.
the actual
Oh.
shift lever.
Okay.
And when they sense the shift lever flexing, like as you were shifting gears, that's when it cuts spark or fuel.
So
or
All
it just
right.
bangs into the next gear. That's how like rally
Pretty
cars
sick,
hear the
right?
bang with the little like.
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
It's
That's
just
You
kind
always
of
see
strain
like a
gauge.
little single wire running up the shifter. Like, what is
I've
that?
never really paid that much of attention, but that's actually really interesting.
Yeah, it's
I had
pretty
no
cool.
idea.
Yeah,
I thought it was just like something that they tuned into it. Like,
I mean, it is.
Yeah,
well,
but you have to
right, but like you have to have something that's giving you a reading that's telling you that.
right, and
so-
that's what's
because you always
getting
you're always chasing that, right? Like, how can I get this to function faster?
Right, yeah.
You know, because like going for the clutch pedal, I mean, that's way too late.
Right.
Yeah,
You know?
no.
That's not.
And
that's
you
not
don't
doing
even
stuff.
need a clutch with most
Well,
sequentials. So
Correct.
like,
Yeah, you can. You also might not.
depends.
But, yeah.
Depends on the trans.
Oh boy, we're getting into another topic.
Another
But, yeah,
can
discussion
of
here.
worms. But
Mm,
yeah,
we need to talk about race car technology soon.
Yeah, we should do sequential stuff
Yeah.
soon.
How
I
to
would
build a
love to.
rally car.
Yeah, Mike Day. how to build a rally.
Yeah,
car.
sure won't have no sequential. I don't know what budget you think I'm working on, but that ain't it.
But yeah, no, I didn't know.
But that so. Oh, I'll go lean on the formula stuff again. Sorry.
Come on, Kevin.
Here we go again.
It's
So
okay.
we're basically, you know,
I like the formula stuff. It helps me learn.
we were trying to build the car as light as possible,
I
right?
keep thinking
Okay,
he's
which
going to
car?
give us like equations, and
I
then
know,
I was
me
like,
too.
oh, he's talking about Formula SAE. So
No,
Oh.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay.
The little cars.
Yeah, that's what I keep thinking too. I'm like, okay.
What's
Sorry.
the equation,
Math.
Kevin?
No, not math.
So, I mean, in a design stage of a car like that, where you're basically saying, okay, we had this last year. This is what we did. We want to improve upon it. You're going to spend a lot of time in design and simulation saying, okay, I think this will be better.
Right.
Well, like the most important part of that is data validation. Is you need to make sure that the things you're saying are going to see X amount of force are actually seeing X amount of force. Otherwise, they're going to fail.
Yeah.
If you're going to build them on that limit of like,
Well, yeah, because you can't make something bend or move more than it's supposed to, right?
When you're building any, race car type of thing, and you're trying to be competitive on the ragged edge, you need to know the point of failure and get as close as you can with some sort of the smallest margin of safety you think is acceptable.
Okay.
Like that's how you're going to be faster than the other guy.
I'm
If
going
you
to
can
point that
make it
out
just a
real
little
quick. We
lighter.
did have a suggestion most recently on Instagram on talking about material properties, which actually I think he said he thinks it's going to be like a pretty
I
small
did see
talking
that.
point, but I think we could probably go on a bit about
That'll be a
different material
learning
properties, material
episode
selection,
for
and
me.
things
Yeah.
like that. So
So.
thank you for the suggestion. I think
Yeah.
we will do that at some point. Carry on.
Well, now
As-
that you interrupted me, I have no idea what the fuck I'm saying.
I don't know. You're talking something about metal and fatiguing.
So,
and,
alright,
Yeah.
ragged
Being
edge.
faster, being
essentially,
faster than the other guy.
strain gauges
Right.
allow you to validate your simulation and like really put a number to what you're seeing in that particular arm. Like if you have an A-arm suspension
Right.
and you have 4 links, say,
Right.
okay, you can put a strain gauge on each one of those links and see exactly how much force is going into it. There's no question about how it's distributed. That's real world data, and you can say, okay, I have 500 pounds of compressive force when we're taking a right-hand corner,
Okay.
whatever it is, or their maximum forces. So you can actually put those numbers right into the simulation to say,
Oh, wow.
okay, it's going to cycle this many times.
Yeah,
We
the
want
cool
it
thing
to
is
have-
like the orientation of the strain gauge gives you the vector also.
Yeah, so yeah, normally if you were worried about it in more than one direction, you could put a couple different strain gauges on, but usually you only want one direction because it's an A-arm.
Yeah,
So okay,
yeah.
you're only really worried
Mhm.
about the direction that it's running. But so that's essentially what you can use strain gauges for.
Yeah.
We haven't really. It's pretty hard to like really set something up if you're really looking to optimize stuff. That's where you need to go.
If you want to if you're building a real race car and you
Mhm.
want to actually make it
right.
almost dangerously fast.
We've used
or
it a
not
couple
fast, but-
times. What was it Shane was doing with the strain gauge? Remember when we
Uh,
almost broke the lift?
The
Oh,
boomerangs, right?
Oh yeah, the front boomerangs for the M2. He's trying to load those and
Mhm.
understand the
Yeah, we actually
characteristics that can
stole
handle.
a spare load cell strain gauge off of our dyno because we had one laying around.
Okay.
And hooked it up to our scissor lift on our alignment rack, and we hooked both eyelets up of like his carbon. It was a carbon fiber tube that was bonded to 2 aluminum ends,
Right.
like just a big boomerang looking thing.
Oh,
It's similar
okay,
to
yeah,
what's
yeah,
on
okay.
the M4.
Okay, yeah. No, that makes more
Um,
sense now.
But it was making just sure to see that the way this was manufactured and whatever epoxy they were using to bond these aluminum pieces into the carbon fiber were going to
Yeah.
hold up to real world
Yeah, so
stress
it's not
and
going to
strain.
break.
So yeah, we hooked the load cell up in line with this carbon fiber tube, and had like a GoPro going and to watch all this stuff until it failed, and it actually ended up bending our alignment rack like plates that bolted to the floor before it failed. So
Oh, wow.
we didn't even get close to failure on that one, but that is one application.
Interesting. I feel like that makes more sense now.
Does that put strain gauges in its own?
Yeah.
Does it kind of sum that up?
Yeah, no, it really does because I had no idea.
So
And there's a
another
lot of things that function on a car in that manner.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, strut tower braces, A-arms. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm saying even factory sensors. That's like the way.
chassis. I mean, you can
Yeah.
put it on a frame rail if you want and see if,
How much
and
flex
where
it's getting, yeah.
flexing, what
Yep.
direction. You know, because the nice thing about strain gauges are they're directional. So
Yeah. Interesting.
You do have to know the material properties. You have to be able to have a baseline.
Mhm.
That's essentially what a load cell
Well-
is. Is basically a something that already
Well-
has a baseline established.
That's not necessarily true. If you can test it and get a
Right.
voltage curve out of it first,
yeah,
with a known
baseline.
loading, you don't have to know anything about the
Known
material
loading
properties.
is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
you
need
can
a
get
known
your own
loading.
baselines if you can assume no loading. You know,
So if you're trying to test a system, that's where that makes a lot of sense. If
Right.
you have multiple components and you're trying to
Mhm.
kind of understand how they correlate together.
or even just like noise filtering too. But
Yeah, it's a whole other can
right.
of worms.
I think that is a good kind of segue. I don't know if our next episode is going to be material properties, but a huge consideration in that as well is knowing these material properties and when you're in plastic or elastic deformation, plastic deformation, yield points,
Right,
and
because-
things like that, which are
Yeah, everything has a different.
and fatigue,
Tensile strength,
fatigue,
right?
life. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, aluminum and steel are completely different materials,
Yes,
right?
they
So they
are.
function differently.
Aluminum is a different material than other aluminum. Also,
True.
Yes.
Yeah, different series of
Well, right,
steels,
and-
aluminums,
right. I mean, we could go on for days, but yeah, no, just from a general understanding.
Days, but,
Yeah, I
All right,
mean, I
Kevin.
don't know that much. I know the
Yeah,
good
people
stuff.
could
I
go
know
on
this
for days.
Yeah,
No, I can't. But
I know
Uh,
generally what each material series means and how that equates to composition.
Carbon
But
content.
generally, a lot of that doesn't matter on a production level because it's either out of your price range because we're not building a rocket ship, or
True,
just
yeah.
you're dealing with common materials just from a cost perspective. So. General material selection is kind of easy once you
Yeah.
know the basics.
it's more common for us to cater the design to the material than the material to the design. So, you're not going to be
For sure.
using some high-end titanium for something, trying to get it as light as possible for most production cars like we are.
Right.
Well, alter the design so you can use a normal 6061 aluminum or
Right.
something.
Just have it
Right.
more than two people are going to buy. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. You don't want a $10,000 strut brace.
Right.
No, that's obscene.
Right.
Yeah.
You can make it, though, and it'd be sweet.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no one's going to buy it. That's the
I mean,
edge we
the,
walk
the
here.
biggest question is does anyone really need that? The 10,000.
well, we'll get into that.
Well, right.
When we talk about material specifically, material properties,
Okay.
Yeah.
we'll dive deep.
There's a lot of considerations there.
Yeah.
I will say that something else that's very useful on automotive application testing is potentiometers, linear potentiometers.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, especially when you're trying to optimize something or you're trying to understand aero loads, that's really important.
That was an arrow load.
I was
boy.
going to say, you
Like
don't even
aerodynamic stuff, like if you're trying to test
okay,
how
okay,
much
okay.
the wing or front splitter or
Yeah.
something like that's doing.
Right, so-
alternatively, you have suspension setup as well. I
well,
mean,
that's still an LPOT.
yeah. No,
right.
I'm saying that's an That's
So
somewhere we would use
basically,
it.
basically, you'll set up brackets on your suspension or whatever moves, and you'll have an actuator or some type of ram that measures its position.
Right.
So you'll see how far the spring compresses. So, if you have a car and you want to know how much the springs compress when it's under full aero load, like a Formula One car, you can do 0 to 150 miles an hour and watch them compress as it goes
Yeah.
faster and see how much it compresses.
I was super interested about that stuff just because the way aerodynamics are actually
Mhm.
designed, working aerodynamics, right? So not just aesthetic stuff, but I always
They can
thought
be
that
the
was
same, too.
Super. Yeah. Well, I mean, you can design things to be aesthetic that could potentially work aerodynamically,
Yeah.
but
Or you can make stuff that works that doesn't look terrible.
true.
But-
But yeah, no, I always thought that was super interesting. I never really looked into it too much. I was just would watch videos of aerodynamics
It's super
happening, so-
interesting seeing what happens to your suspension as you're taking a corner and you hit a bump or
Yeah.
whatever it was, and you change some other settings to see how it affects it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's
Not- I mean, the only thing I can really think of that really crosses my mind here, and not to go on a rant about the Corrado, I guess, but the active aero is
Corrado is life.
well, the active aero on that car, I mean, it's not the best from the early 90s, but the way that they designed it was actually pretty cool and functional. So I don't know. That's
It's kind of what they did with the 911s too. They had the hydraulically operated,
right.
speed sensing rear wing.
Right.
It's a shame that they had such a high failure rate because I always want to like rob them out of like a 911 for something else.
Yeah, rob it out of a 911. Good luck.
Well,
I mean,
Maybe.
the failure rate's not that high,
No.
but
yeah, but for
Well,
what it is,
I
it's
can't speak from
expensive.
experience because I just fixed mine like last winter. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, it's definitely that's something that's always cool. I always like active aero specifically, just from a design standpoint, like especially on like the new McLarens and whatnot and stuff like that, is like really the amount of ways that they have gotten that to actually function and move based on
My
what
favorite
you're,
is
what
the
you're doing is
rudimentary string test. The yarn.
oh yeah, just yarn all
Just
over
taping
stuff.
yarn
Yeah.
all over things.
I
That
do
works
like that too.
Yeah.
That's nice. Or dye.
yeah.
Dye
Yeah.
works too.
Yeah.
But really, like most sensors you use on a vehicle are just different ways to applicate some type of voltage
Oh yeah,
output. So they're all going to output a 0 to 5 volt, whatever. So like if you have a linear potentiometer at full compression, it's going to read 0.
Right.
At full extension, it's going to read 5.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as strain gauges, mass airflow
Temperature
sensors,
gauges,
everything.
Everything works off of resistance essentially.
Same, different.
So
you're
pretty
trying
much
to turn any motion or temperature into, a voltage, so you can
make a line.
record it all in the same way,
Yeah.
and then
Ohm's
correlate
law,
it to something
bro.
else.
Kevin, give us the equation.
What is it?
Can't get it.
V equals IR.
There you go.
That's one.
I was waiting for a real formula all day.
I was trying to pull out O for ohm.
Well, it
All
seems
right,
like we have some potential topics for next episode.
Yeah. No, I appreciate the suggestion, topic suggestion. That's definitely gonna be pretty
Yeah.
high on our list, I think. And
Yeah.
probably a pretty good segue.
I think.
yeah.
Well, next week might be Doob's Hoobcast. Which
Yeah, we're not
that's
gonna
not
really.
be a good one.
we're
there.
not gonna be in any sort of condition to be talking technical.
No. This will be. I think we might do a live. Well, not live, but
Live
from the tail of the
from
dragon.
the dude soup.
Live from the tail of the dragon. Hot
Okay.
tub.
Yeah.
Which
well,
is
don't drop the laptop in there.
the
Yeah.
dude soup machine is the hot tub.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
you
I
didn't
figured
put that
out
together.
already.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's gross.
So yeah, we'll be down on the tail of the dragon next week.
Well,
There'll be less dudes in it though. It's kind of
Yeah.
disappointing.
yeah.
we'll have to get you guys. If you guys are actually going to do a live episode, we'll have to get you set up with a.
Oh, well, I don't know about
Yeah.
live. I mean, I
You
guess
said live.
I don't think
Oh,
dudes in a
live.
hot tub
relatively
is a good,
speaking, I
good
mean,
live
people don't
one.
really know when we're recording these, so.
We actually recorded these 6 years ago. We're just not releasing them.
Yeah, it is.
No, but
It's like The Simpsons. We predicted COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus Christ,
They've predicted so many things.
It's so good.
But yeah, so I don't know. Give
Keep-
updates and stuff.
Yep. Keep the suggestions coming. Thanks for listening. You know where
Yeah,
to
we
find
hope
us.
you appreciate the mic edit. Finally, sorry, Mike.
I didn't even think. Oh yeah,
Sorry.
the 21st century.
Yeah,
Mike.
It was
You should have
good.
posted the actual video. Like, you should have swiped. It should have been the.
At the
the raw edit.
to be
and
fair,
then
at the
swipe
end,
right.
it's like
I
does
know.
basically the
full
That's,
thing,
that's
yeah.
fair, but I mean, like, you could have swiped to watch the actual video in one
It's
swoop.
been done. We'll just have to
Yeah.
give him a new one.
we'll just have to post it again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's too late.
Should we just spam post that same video for the next 30
Probably,
posts?
yeah.
No,
But
I won't do that to you.
Just so everyone knows, I felt fine from that. Other than the rib thing, like, it looks like I hit my head. I hit my ribs way harder than I hit my head.
we were still debating. We were still
I might have
debating
touched
on
my
the,
head, but-
the
No.
noise. What made that noise? Because it wasn't the quad. You could see the
No.
quad didn't touch the
No,
tree,
it
But
wasn't.
and so there
But-
was a crunch.
You brought up a great
So-
point. If you look at it, the lights come on
The
as I'm
lights
coming
go on,
off,
yeah.
and you have a switch in death zone near my ankle.
Seems
Yeah.
way too loud for a switch. I don't
Yeah.
know.
No, but like
There's no way. It
that
was
means
this way.
I caught plastics or
Considering
something
how
like
much
that.
how much noise was muffled
yeah, it
by the
coulda-
snow there too.
Well, it could have been like him moving the plastics on the quad, and,
Right.
And like
I don't know.
slapping and something.
There's no way my head would have made that noise, and I'd still be here.
Why are you so defensive about
He's
this?
pretty.
I'm just
defensive
saying,
about
I
like-
it.
feel like he knows that it's actually his head. He's just
It's not my head.
He's like, I've
his
always
ribs,
felt a
it's
little
fine.
fuzzy since then. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Watch the video. Drop it in the comments. Let us know what you think made the
Yeah.
noise.
Yep.
I can tell you it wasn't my head.
Otherwise, we're just gonna wrap it up there. I don't even think there's any point in telling us or telling you where to listen to podcasts anymore because
Yeah,
you're
all the
already
places.
listening. And
Yeah.
if you can't find it somewhere, let us know and we'll put it there.
We are.
Yeah, that's a good
I
point.
did make a conscious effort today to have a promo panel designed for ads to go out for the podcast.
Heck yeah.
So
What does that mean?
We're about to be famous.
So basically in the ads we have different panels for like different things, right? So basically the podcast is going to have its own panel where you can click on it and go straight to YouTube or iTunes or Spotify.
We need
That's
Dave
a lot
to
of
teach
oars.
us on marketing stuff at one of these.
Yeah, let's just
Oh, boy.
reverse the roles
I
here
don't
and
feel
just
like-
have like a marketing
I feel like
episode.
no one's really going to like want to listen to that
There's
though.
pick the most
Well, actually,
interesting
no,
parts of it. Like,
and then we all get to play dumb.
Honestly, it's like
Yeah.
really we'll get into it a different day.
Yeah.
Not
just
today.
just think about it. Just dwell on it.
It's
think
like
about
in,
the
bet-
interesting
in
stuff.
between of CAD to cars. It's like somewhere in the middle there.
Well,
It's
right,
like
'cause it all
CAD
kinda-
to
it all kinda
people to
goes in,
cars.
like SEO
Yeah.
to cars.
I don't
Ooh.
do that. That
No.
SEO is not my thing. You'll have to have Mr. Art on the podcast here.
He'd be good.
I'm
Yeah,
good.
he has a lot. Art is a very smart gentleman. He is.
He's a good dude.
I'm into
Yeah.
it. I'd like to hear
So.
about it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe one day.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll figure it out. But yeah, listen on iTunes and Spotify and whatever the other ones
I
are.
said we weren't doing that.
And Caddy
Yeah, I
Cars
literally
and
just said
Instagram.
you didn't have to stop.
I have to
Stop.
say it.
No,
I
you
have to
don't,
say it.
Dave.
Yeah, no. I
But
feel
yeah.
We
like
were doing so good. Like last 3 episodes, I was like,
All right, everyone. So listen to us on
things.
whatever.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Follow us on Instagram.
The last one was like, listen to us somewhere. Fine.
Yeah.
But
If you can't find it, tell us where.
leave us topic
and then
ideas.
We'll fix that.
They can find
We'll
it.
think of other stuff. Keep it coming. Tell us your stuff. Get
there
back.
it goes again.
I can't help it, man. What, you
Just
want
say
to talk
bye.
about
Just give it
marketing?
once.
Try to
Okay.
market it.
All right, bye.
All right, bye.